Now, we've been using Insta360 cameras here at MotoDeal for a few years now. We started with the X2, which I scratched the lens and it no longer was a 360. More on that in a bit. We then moved to the X3, the X4, which is still a great camera. In fact, I didn't think it could get much better than this. I was wrong. This is the all-new Insta360 X5. Let's find out more about it in this episode of Behind the Desk. Now, these cameras helped us get shots on MotoDeal that we probably couldn't get with a normal action camera. And there have been times when we don't have enough manpower and there's only two of us in a shoot and we have no choice but to use a 360. So let's talk about some of the physical features first of the all-new X5. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger than the X3, but it's almost the same size as the X4. In fact, to the naked eye, they look pretty much the same, except for the little bit of a pattern here on the back side of the camera. Or is this the front? Well, you know, with a 360, you don't know which is the back and the front. That's the beauty of these cameras. And if you take off the lens cap, you actually have a little bit of a microphone right here, and it's nicely integrated into the design of the camera, so you don't really notice it right away. In fact, when Jack was shooting the close-ups of this camera, I'm sure he didn't know that was the microphone. All right, so let's talk about the specs and improvements over the previous generation X4. The X5 has a bigger sensor. It's got not one, not two, but 3 AI chips. And you can shoot up to 8K and 30 frames per second, or 5.7K at 60 frames per second for slow motion. It's got an HDR mode for 5.7K at 60 frames per second, and Insta360 claims it is 100% more drop resistant than the X4. Now, that is a big deal because, as I mentioned earlier, I scratched the lens of my old X2 and it no longer could shoot 360 because there was a little bit of a mark on the videos. But with the X5, aside from the body being scratch resistant or drop resistant, I should say, it also has a replacement lens kit that you can purchase. And I think this is the biggest game changer for the X5 because previously, if something happens to the lens of any 360 cameras, you have to send the unit to a different country for them to replace the lens or maybe even replace the whole camera. And it's pretty costly and it's something that's just not super efficient, especially if you need the camera right away. But now you can purchase a replacement lens kit and replace it yourself. I'm sure you guys have seen probably some videos where people scratch the lenses of the X5 and they show you how to replace it. I'm not gonna do that because I know firsthand how it feels to be without the 360 cameras that I need, and I wanna save the replacement lens kit for when I do need it. The X5 also now comes with endurance mode in case you need extra battery life. And speaking of battery life, the battery of the X5 lasts longer than that of the X4 and X3. Now, the X5 is also more waterproof than the previous generation Insta360s. However, if you are gonna go diving with the unit, I would still recommend using the dive case, especially if it's salt water. Now, along with the camera, inside the box, you get a USB-C cable, protective pouch, lens cloth, a quick start guide, and a warranty card. Now, the microphone of the X5 is also better than the previous generations, especially if you want to minus the wind noise when you are going to be using the camera, on a motorcycle that is. So this is the sound of the microphone of the Insta360 X4. Again, this is now facing me, or yeah, again, 360 cameras, it doesn't really matter which way the camera is facing. But again, this is the X4. Let's test out the X5. And now this is the sample audio of the X5. Again, this is a sample audio of the X5. We are in a closed environment or an enclosed room, so the wind noise here is definitely zero, but when you're out on a motorcycle, you could definitely hear the difference. Now, Insta360 also launched a new app that you need actually to be able to edit the X5 on your phone and on your computer. And this one, I needed a little bit of time to get used to it. In fact, I'm still getting used to it. There's a little bit of a learning curve with the new app. I was just so used to the old one. So if there was something that I could complain about immediately, is that the app does have a little bit of a learning curve to get used to it. But once you do get used to it, it's supposed to be a lot easier than the previous app. Now, on paper, this is the most capable Insta360 camera to date. In practice, we get spectacular footage that's clear, sharp, and can easily be reframed in post-production. On top of that, with a bigger sensor, it has pure mode, making the low light performance excellent. The colors still pop. In fact, I actually think it looks better than looking at the lights with your naked eye. Now, think of it like this. The bigger sensor allows us to get clearer footage morning or evening, and also allows us to zoom in a little bit more. Now, that's something that here at MotoDeal we definitely need a lot, because with the old X3, when we zoom in the image, it becomes a little bit pixelated, you lose a little bit of a detail. But with the X4, it actually worked very well, and the X5 is even better. And to prove that, we put all three cameras on a scooter to test out the differences between the three. Here's the footage. Now, to really test out the capabilities of the X5, we put it up against a mirrorless camera. Now, of course, the mirrorless camera is going to be better. You can control a lot of things more with that camera. The X5, we put on the X5, it's pretty much a little bit more of a point and shoot, and then you just reframe in post. And we tested this out with Earl actually manning the mirrorless camera, and the X5 shooting at the same time. Now, there are pros and cons with this. First of all, the con with the mirrorless camera is that you need somebody to man the camera, you need somebody to drive the car. So that's two people extra aside from me. And aside from that, it's also a little bit difficult because you have somebody almost hanging out of a car shooting the subject, which is me and the motorcycle. And with that, it becomes a little bit, let's just say, you don't want the attention too much, especially if you pass, well, traffic enforcers, so on and so forth. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. With the X5, you just put it on the side of the car and nobody really notices it too much. Now again, the conditions of the shoot, this was about 3 to 4 p.m. and the sun was still shining really bright, and not the best conditions when you're shooting video, but that's all we had to work with. And this is the footage to show the differences between the X5 and the mirrorless camera. So with the three cameras, you see that the X4 and the X5, the differences is not that huge during the day. However, when we hit the tunnels and we hit low light in the evening, you see there is a big jump. And that is because of the bigger sensor on the X5, the pure mode capability shooting of the X5, which is similar to the Ace Pro 2. And that's where the biggest difference is between the X4 and the X5. The X3 in low light, it just doesn't work. The X3 is there really more for, you know, bright light conditions, but once you hit low light with the X3, it's pretty much almost unusable. The X4, still passable at some points or at some times, but the X5 is just absolutely brilliant. Now, another thing that I love about the new design of the Insta360 X5 is that it now comes with the quick release. So if you have the Ace Pro or other Insta cameras, it comes with this little device right here, and now you can just stick the camera there, and it's probably not the most secure thing, so if you're going high speeds on a motorcycle, you probably don't want to do that. But it's definitely something good in case you want to use the camera for, you know, normal, let's say if you're walking around and you want shots like that, it definitely comes in handy for that. So the quick release from the bottom is definitely a welcome addition to the new X5. Now, the one thing that I do wish that the X5 came with, or maybe that Insta can do this for the X6, is that I wish it had the capability of shooting with ND filters. I think that will definitely level it up even more than the previous generation's 360 cameras. But I just don't know how they're gonna do that because of the way the lens is, because it's, they'll have to make special ND filters that can, I don't know how they'll do it, but it's something that I think there is a little bit of room for improvement, and that would be it. If you use ND filters, if you're able to use ND filters with a 360 camera, I don't think there's gonna be another camera out there that can match the capabilities of that. So what do you think? Is the Insta360 X5 just a minor update, or is it a major upgrade? Well, you guys saw the specs, you guys saw the sample videos, you tell me. For more information about anything in the world of motorcycling, you can log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. I'm Gina Rufino. Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Desk.